If you're screen printing for real brands and any type of client that lives or dies by the drop, here's the deal. They care if a shirt feels premium, looks authentic, and fits their vibe every single time. And what that means for you is you need to be a little bit more technical and a more creative screen printer. Let's talk about streetwear. When you're screen printing streetwear, you're not just printing a shirt, you're printing a uniform, an identity, and it's a signal. And the print, that's the loudest part of that signal.
I think about what are people actually wearing on the streets. A lot of this stuff that you see in fashion, you don't see in the streets very often, you know? Like the kids, they're the future. They kind of pick what's hot and what's not.
Any decorator can put a clean logo with a perfect placement on a shirt. Heck, you can even do that with DTF. But you're gonna lose the room if you give a streetwear brand a DTF shirt that feels like plastic.
Even cheaper stuff like what they do at the mall. Like most people's idea of customizing clothing is like going to one of those kiosks at the mall and having them heat press, you know, some kind of like cheap paper, their design onto a shirt. So with screen print, I just feel like it feels authentic, it feels real.
Brands are gonna judge you on feel, finish, and consistency, along with the creativity you give their design to make that print come to life. So the brand doesn't care about how you make that happen, the screen meshes, the press settings, but you're gonna need to know those techniques in order to make those designs pop. So let's talk about technique versus concept. The technique doesn't matter if the concept sucks.
I've tried to like go and searching for it, but the inspiration just comes to me when I'm ready. Sometimes I don't have it, or sometimes I got a creative block going on and I'll try to fight through it and stuff, but it just happens when it happens, you know?
So your art concept is the headline and the print is the delivery system. The execution is taking that brand idea, its story, its voice, its personality, and making it a reality. So how does brand voice show up on fabric? Good brands obsess over that voice, how they look, how they speak, and how they feel.
You know, world is my canvas. Like I like printing on anything. I'm still waiting to do a giant print on this right here, and I want to do skateboards soon. Like everything's art, everything can be art.
And that voice shows up everywhere. Labels, packaging, photos, and yes, even ink on a shirt. If a brand is minimal and premium, then a crunchy, rough print or large print's probably not gonna work. But then if a brand is loud and boisterous, you're gonna want something heavy and thick that really speaks to the way that brand sounds. But if a customer is attracted to the design, what's the first thing that happens next when they get their hands on it? They feel it. Streetwear customers touch the print like it owes the money because they spend a lot of money on that. And when they touch it, they're gonna decide in about 2 seconds, that feels cheap or that feels expensive.
And me as a printer, I know the work it takes to pull this off. And what's crazy to me is that when you flip it, it's a whole different colorway. And it's like, to me, it's a piece of art.
So why do bad prints lose and never make the real money in the streetwear game? Well, because they don't feel great and they don't last that long. If your ink is thick but not stacked or engineered correctly, it's gonna feel rough and it's going to crack over time. So the key is making the print match the brand promise that the customer is buying.
This right here was Plastisol. This right here is water-based, and sometimes you can hardly feel water-based. These were tricky because you don't want to let that water-based ink dry on that screen. I'm doing like a large run for hours, but I also couldn't do that. I didn't want the Plastisol on this shirt because it's so much ink, it's so big. The water-based is a little more thin. It depends on the vibe of the idea of the shirt.
So how do you make Plastisol prints feel retail that are both smooth and strong? Let's start out with screens because this is screen printing.
My favorite screens are those 23 by 31 screens. The past few years, people have been going for bulkier, bigger stuff. I've never really printed on women's tees. I printed always on men's tees. Like women like men's tees. But then you also see people starting to go back and wear tighter stuff now. A lot of dudes that wear baby tees. I don't think a lot of people in the state can produce one of these. Like a lot of people don't have a screen that size. Like even to this day, like this is insane to me.
Good screens, good mesh selection that's allowing the ink to transfer through and mat down the fibers of all different types of garments, and great emulsion with the proper EOM, emulsion over mesh. This is gonna give the best base layer for the rest of your print as you stack it. Then once you have that good base screen, proper settings on your press, like off contact, squeegee durometer, and angle, are important to make sure that print is executed correctly. If you're a manual screen printer, especially on heavier weight garments or fleece, you may need to try adjusting your print method. For instance, if you're a traditional pusher, you may need to try pulling in order for you to have an adjustable angle and pressure to get a smooth print on garment. And speaking of the garment, the blanks totally matter, especially when you're printing heavier weight. If you go towards more of the premium garments that are using different types of washes or garment washes, using potentially ring spun or compact ring spun yarns, that's gonna give you a much smoother printing surface and allow that premium feel to really come out.
I had like one of these designs printed on one of the thinner shirts. Someone asked me if I print that on other types of shirts as well. He was also a printer too. You should pick your favorite like cheaper, thinner quality type of tee, and also have your favorite like thick, big shirt. Some brands, the seams are a little bigger or the size just isn't right for it. These thinner shirts work out better for a big print like this. And I think it's the opposite for that too. If I was gonna do a more minimalistic shirt, I'm gonna go with like a thicker type of shirt.
Also, since you're printing for streetwear brands, you're probably gonna want a tearaway label to make that private labeling super easy. It's not like you can't print on rough surfaces, it just will make your job a little bit harder in the execution of the screen print. Speaking of labels, let's talk about the finish. Let's start with the print. Really understand where that shirt is going to be interacted with the most. Will it be hanging on a shelf? Will there be light on it so that light's shining off the print? That really dictates the finish of the print itself. Will it be on a rack or showing up in a box? You're gonna wanna make sure it's presented to your customer and their customer the way they're gonna interact with it the best. This could also mean hang tagging, special folding, packaging and bagging, and fulfillment services that you can charge more for. Now let's get into the technical engineering and print execution that you have the opportunity to make yourself stand out for. Starting with specialty inks. So many of these types of designs have really unique elements to the artwork itself. Maybe there's metallic, bling, high density, or puff. These are all opportunities to make you shine. How much cooler is a shirt that has bling on it when it actually shines when you look at it and feels like diamonds when you touch it? You can use glitters and metallics to add these special elements rather than just printing a flat simulated process design. If the concept's going to be seen a lot at night, why not try adding some reflective into that design?
Another local artist, it was actually an airbrush shirt, like me printing the shirt and then throwing it over to him, and then he took it and put it on the wall and just started, spraying. And these were glow in the dark too. Went to the club and like it was cool, like your shirt's glowing up. Yeah. That's kind of where my journey is about to start going. Spraying color on it and being able to make one-of-ones. Turning your shirt into like a page out of a coloring book.
If it's futuristic, add some actual metallic ink versus just some standard metallic DTF or sim process work. If it's playful, maybe add some puff. And if it's aggressive, stack it up with some HD. If you can combine the way the customer will interact with the print to the effect, it's gonna have much more impact. Since brands are really charging a premium for these garments, you can come up with creative concepts that are gonna take you longer to execute on press and more expensive for them to purchase, but give them the ability to get that premium and their customers to be wowed and come back again with that brand loyalty. So especially in this game, cheaper's not better, better's better. Think about ways to make your pricing make sense if you're catering to this market. For instance, you can have a category of prints called a flat print versus a raised or dimensional print that costs more. When a customer looks at that, they're immediately already looking to something that's a little bit different than the flat print.
This was my first popular tee.
Oh, really?
Kind of thought like, how cool would it be to do like a Halloween scary type of shirt vibe and then mix it with the bleach. When I dropped it, people were buying it, and I was like, wow, because before this, I did a couple of drops and no one bought a tee out of those couple of drops. And I was like, I gotta dial things back. I gotta maybe simplify things a little bit. I was trying to do crazier stuff. And this right here was the one that first caught.
Another great example of that is standard versus bold. If you have a brand that really wants to stand out, they're probably gonna look immediately to the bold section of your pricing guide. And finally on the finish, a standard finish versus a retail finish, or a standard package versus a retail package can really give your customers a pathway to make more premium choices without really arguing about price. Remember, with all these specialty inks and executions of unique print methods, consistency is key. So you need repeatable designs. You don't wanna hack something up that looks amazing one time and then you can't replicate it the next time the brand goes to reorder because they sold out in one day. These limited runs create a sense of urgency, but sometimes they want to do another drop. And if you have to repeat that, that means you gotta have consistency in your shop. So what does consistency mean for a screen printer? It means documentation and systems. You need to have a Pantone ink mixing system or extremely closely document custom ink matches using additives or different types of special effects. Keeping track of your ratios is extremely important, so making sure to track that on the work order will make the repeatability of that job much easier.
Like my first video that ever went viral, it was the one time I did that design. Oh, and then there's people trying to buy the shirt. They're like, where's the shirt at? You're a terrible businessman. Like, why would you make a shirt and not have it for sale? And I hated the shirt. Those next couple of days, I'm sitting here just making tons of this shirt that I hate just to post and be able to sell it. The people pick what they like, So it's a balance between making what you like, but also like being aware of what's going on. And
You need to track the screen meshes that you use, the screen tensions that were used, and the EOM that was used, especially for specialty printing. A standard coated low tension screen is going to print completely differently than a high tension screen with thin thread and double the EOM. Finally, all your press settings, your squeegee durometers, your squeegee angles, speeds, pressures, flash temps, times, and print orders are extremely important to track in your job notes so you can put it back on press and print the job again with success. Once your shop has the ability to execute on all these unique parameters of a screen print, it's important that you have a print menu to present it to your clients. And for streetwear and retail, a good print menu can look like creative names that speak to the brands, great descriptions that describe what's going to be happening in the printing process, visuals like pictures, and best case scenarios, printed examples of past work of all these different types of print menu options in order to really get your hands on and feel what's going to happen on press. To wrap it up, a well-executed traditional screen printed shirt is not going to win and differentiate in the streetwear game. Streetwear rewards creative ideas that are executed in a way a customer can interact, feel, touch, and be proud of that expensive purchase they just made of the brand that you printed.
a lot of people don't put themselves out there. People in general, but like artists, I feel like are really insecure. And sometimes even when I tell myself like, you know, like, come on, like, you know, you're great, you're this or that, you know, sometimes I got a big ego, you know, but at the end of the day, I still, sometimes when I do a new print, I'm like, I don't know if people are gonna like this, you know? Some stuff I don't. There's a reason why some of the stuff isn't even out for sale right now. You just gotta put it out there and let people tell you what's hot and what's not.
A creative print menu, great execution, and repeatable results. That's what streetwear brands actually care about. Everything else is just shop talk. If you like some of the concepts that you heard or saw in this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to see more great videos on how to execute it in your shop. And if you need anything to make that happen, check out screenprinting.com for all the supplies and equipment you need to power the print in your shop. Bleh.